They say you get only one good dog in your life. And I got lucky with my very first dog. His name was Hamlet. He was a golden retriever collie mix with a long, straight collie nose and a reddish golden coat and a collie ruff. I adopted him from the shelter my first year of grad school, and he and I had some rough times at first. I didn't know what I was doing with a dog, and I unwittingly encouraged bad habits he had picked up in his previous life. We needed several sessions with a trainer to sort everything out. But he turned into a loyal, affectionate, calm, smart dog, really a wonderful companion. I did things for that dog I never imagined I would do for any creature, canine or human. One time, this is a 75-pound collie mix here, he climbed onto the kitchen table while I was out and ate a box of the zinc lozenges people take for colds. I called the vet, found out zinc is poisonous to dogs, and without going into detail, let's just say I had to induce vomiting, then clean up the results. It's one of the most disgusting jobs I've ever had in my entire life. And then there was his last day, when he was dying of a fast-moving cancer, and I had to decide to end his suffering. One of the hardest decisions I've ever had to make. I haven't had another dog since he died, and I'm not sure I ever will. Hamlet was the best. He loved me, and I did those hard things for him because I loved him. I thought of Hamlet and the things we do for love when I read this gospel. It's a really difficult one. In fact, it might be the most difficult thing Jesus says. Whoever comes to me and does not hate family and even life itself cannot be my disciple. Whoever does not carry the cross, Jesus means take up the instrument of one's own execution and follow me, cannot be my disciple. None of you can become my disciple if you do not give up all your possessions. There's no ambiguity here. Jesus does not leave room for negotiation. If you want to be my disciple, you must do this. I always wonder how many people were left with Jesus after he made this pronouncement. How many said, nope, I'm out of here, and walked away? There had to be many, right? Perhaps most people in the crowd turned away from the cost of following Jesus. And yet, Jesus is not giving the whole story here. He's going on and on about the cost, but he doesn't say anything about the benefits of following him. We have to look elsewhere in the Gospel of Luke to hear about those. Jesus proclaims that the kingdom of God has come near. God's will of healing and peace and wholeness and justice is being made real on earth. Jesus describes a great banquet where absolutely everybody is invited, especially the people who think they don't deserve a place at the table. And Jesus makes that banquet real when he eats with sinners and tax collectors. He tells stories about lost sheep, lost coins, lost sons being found, because he came to seek out and save the lost. Not even death can keep Jesus from the people he loves. When they think all is lost and he's gone forever, he is made known to them in the breaking of bread, and they realize Jesus can never and will never leave them. It's easy to fall in love with Jesus and the kingdom of God he proclaims. Simon Peter does, and Mary Magdalene, John, Mark, Andrew, Joanna. And when you love someone, they are worth the sacrifices you make for them. What I wish Jesus had said, what I think the whole Gospel of Luke does say, is that following Jesus is really hard. It means painful choices. And those choices are worth it. We're willing and able to do those hard things for Jesus out of love. The Apostle Paul knows this, and he thinks his friend Philemon does too. Today is one of the very few days that you can go home and tell your neighbors that you read an entire book of the Bible in church. Paul's letter to Philemon is only 25 verses. It's one of the shortest books of the Bible, and it's the only letter Paul wrote to an individual that has survived. To understand this letter, it helps us to know something about slavery in the first century Roman world. The Romans practiced chattel slavery, much like what happened in this country. But Roman slavery was not based on race. Enslaved people in the Roman world had either been captured in war or born to enslaved mothers. Enslaved people could be sold away from their families. They could be punished harshly for real or imagined wrongdoing. They could also be freed and become Roman citizens with rights and privileges. Paul is writing this letter in prison. Paul was in prison a lot. And while he's there, he has become close to an enslaved man called Onesimus. Paul says they are like father and son. Onesimus belongs to Philemon, a dear friend and co-worker of Paul's. It's not clear how Onesimus ended up with Paul. Maybe Onesimus ran away. Maybe Philemon sent him to Paul with food and clothes for his imprisonment. Now Paul is sending Onesimus back to Philemon with a request. Paul asks Philemon to set Onesimus free. Paul puts this request in the context of love. The love between these two friends, Philemon and Paul, the love between Paul, the foster father, and Onesimus, the foster son, and the love all three of them have for Jesus Christ. Paul is senior enough in the Christian movement that he could order Philemon to free Onesimus. But Paul doesn't want to coerce his friend. He asks Philemon to do this out of love. Love for Jesus and love for his dear friend Paul. This is one of those painful choices Jesus was talking about. There are all kinds of reasons Philemon might not want to set Onesimus free. Who knows how well or poorly Philemon has treated Onesimus? And good treatment does not make up for the monstrous offense of owning another human being. Freeing Onesimus and welcoming him as a beloved brother means that Philemon has to make amends for the cruel things he has done. Freeing one enslaved person probably means freeing all the enslaved persons in the household. Philemon's home is so large the church meets there. It's going to cost him a lot if he has to start paying for staff. Philemon is surely facing social pressure not to free his slaves. The neighbors don't want their enslaved people getting ideas about freedom. And Philemon might have a difficult time imagining a world without slavery. He's taken this evil institution for granted his whole life, and he doesn't know any other way to order society. For Philemon, freeing Onesimus is as dramatic a choice as hating his family, taking up his cross, giving up all his possessions to follow Jesus. And yet, we do hard things for the sake of love all the time. We clean up unmentionable messes out of love for our pets. We make difficult medical decisions out of love for our children. We turn down job offers that would have us move far away out of love for our families. We admit our wrongs and make amends for the hurt we have caused out of love for our friends. We take action when we see injustice out of love for our neighbors. I remember Hamlet and how willingly I did what I had to do for him because I loved him. And as terrific as he was a dog. There's so much more I'm willing to do naturally, even gladly, for the people I love. Maybe we're overthinking Jesus' words about sacrifice. When we fall in love with Jesus, as Simon Peter and Mary Magdalene, Philemon, Onesimus, and Paul did, those dramatic choices don't feel like sacrifice at all. We're able to do hard things willingly, gladly, out of love for Jesus. fascinating thing about Paul's letter to Philemon is that we have only this one chapter in the story. What did Philemon do? We don't know. Paul certainly expected Philemon to free Onesimus, and I like the way Paul invited himself for a visit after he was out of prison, just to check in. But Philemon's decision is up to our imagination. I would love to hear what you think happened next. Perhaps, as he prayed about what to do, Philemon thought about the hard things he had done out of love for his spouse, his children, his friends. Perhaps he remembered the angel Gabriel's words to Mary, that nothing is impossible, for all things are possible with God. And perhaps Philemon's difficult choice to free Onesimus was easy in the end, because he did it out of love.